I, female 29, knew from a young age I didn't ever want to have or raise children. I met my husband in college, and he was decidedly child-free too. We got married a couple of years back. My husband's younger sister, 24, has 3 kids, a male kindergartner and a male and female toddler, with different deadbeat guys. 2 months ago, she left all of them at our house, said she was going to go on an errand, and never returned. Just left. We filed a report and everything. Last we heard, she was safe, but didn't want to return. My husband's mom is a minimum wage worker, barely scraping by. She was a single mom and didn't want to raise these kids. I don't want to raise them either. Don't get me wrong, I feel bad for them, but raising kids is a huge responsibility I don't want to take up. In the 2 months they were here, our expense has increased. We had to buy them clothes and stuff, and they're sleeping in our living room on air mattresses. We only have 1 bedroom. I had to work from home and look after them because my husband couldn't work from home, and daycare for 3 is expensive. It's been rough to say the least. It's all on me. CPS got involved and asked us whether we wanted to keep the kids. I do not. I thought my husband would be on the same page, but he wants to keep the kids. CPS has asked us to decide quickly and make necessary changes. Get a bigger home for one. My husband and I have gone back and forth on this. I cannot live the next 16 years like this. Raising kids is hard and expensive, but he wants to be there for his family, which I get. So yesterday I told him I wanted a divorce, quickly, before he made any commitments and dragged me into it with him. He called me an idiot for divorcing over kids, for abandoning him when he needed me. I told him he knew my boundaries well in advance, and this was a commitment, children, that he was unilaterally deciding on. Am I the idiot for wanting to divorce my husband because he unilaterally decided I would sacrifice 16 years of my life, career, and health to assume a mother role he knew from the get-go I didn't want in my life? Edit. I basically don't sleep for more than 3 hours and am on the verge of losing my job. That should explain how much I get to work. The sister is safe? Great. Maybe she can use her newfound freedom to take on a couple of jobs to earn money to pay child support for her own kids or get thrown in jail for being a deadbeat mom. You are not the idiot because forcing someone into parenthood is also bad for those children. If you're ill-equipped or unwilling, those children will be the ones to suffer for it. They deserve parents who want them wholeheartedly and nothing less. It would be better to end this marriage before the resentment of the situation takes over your life. He wants to keep the children, but you have to accommodate and take care of them all day long. If you want to shut this down with your husband, ask him who he thinks is going to stay home and take care of all 3 kids, since you can't afford daycare. I tell him that if I'm allowed to go to work and he's going to stay at home and take care of the kids, then no problem, because you know darn well he won't agree to that. I don't think it's about shutting him down. This is just a tragic and awful situation. It's commendable and understandable that the husband doesn't want his nieces and nephews to be taken by CPS and thrown into foster care. It's also understandable she doesn't want kids. He also may not have thought that far ahead yet, but it's also possible there are government programs or subsidies that can help given the situation. There may be a solution, and they may get divorced and end up wanting different things here. But the only villain is the sister. And hopefully, they can at least work together to figure out a transition plan for the kids who are innocent in all of this. Everyone is calling the sister an idiot, and she is, but those kids had another parent too. When do the deadbeat dads have their comeuppance? It just angers me that people call for the mother to be arrested for child abandonment when the fathers also abandon their children. Like, I'm not defending the mom. They're just all trash. Imagine as a child that your dad leaves, your mom leaves you, your grandma can't take you in, and then your uncle and auntie give you up. OP got dealt an awful hand, but the kids got even worse. It's no secret that I'm not very strict with my kids. 2 boys, teenagers. They don't have a curfew. I don't get mad at them if they don't get good grades. I don't ground them, and they have girlfriends I allow them to have over. Yes, I know my older one has smoked weed, etc., etc., etc. And guess what? The boys are typical teenage boys, but they're kind-hearted and sweet. We have an excellent relationship, and they're actually home more often than not. While we aren't strict parents, we also taught them to be kind, generous, and respectful. And it actually worked, though we do have some bad days, but no one's perfect. I have a friend who's a great mom, but she and her daughter cannot stand each other right now. She complains about being unable to connect with her, but I don't say anything because every child is different, and I also don't have any daughters. My parenting style won't work on every child either. This friend came over for lunch, and both of my boys were home. One of them had their girlfriend over, and we chatted briefly before they both went upstairs to my son's room. My friend looked shocked and said, "You're seriously going to let them be alone in his room?" I just said, "Yeah." And she was like, "I could never do that." I just laughed along with her. Then my eldest came downstairs and says, "Hey Mom, I'm ordering food. Do you want anything?" I said no thanks and turned back to my friend, and she looked shocked again and was like, "But you cooked food." I told her he was old enough to eat whatever he wanted, and he's ordering food with his own money that he earned. So why would I stop him? It's not like it's a special occasion, or I specifically cooked food for him. Besides, what I cooked was just fancy-looking grilled cheese sandwiches. My friend made a face and kept telling me that what I was doing wasn't right, and that I was acting like their friend, not their parent. And even teenage boys need rules to become good people. I tried to change the subject, but she wouldn't let it go. So I said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not taking parenting advice from you." She went quiet before yelling at me and saying that I was the weird one, not her, and that I couldn't be serious. I told her she should probably leave, and she said I should. "I didn't know you were such a mean person. I pray your kids never talk to you again when they realize how much you failed them." Now, I'm not asking for judgment about my parenting, but am I the idiot for what I specifically said to my friend about her parenting? I feel a little bad because it is a sore spot and she's not a bad parent. She said this, "I pray your kids never talk to you again when they realize how much you failed them." That is an absolutely horrible thing to say to someone, especially someone who's apparently a friend. Not the idiot at all. Your boys sound like good kids. She sounds like someone who recently realized that her problem with her child are a direct result with her authoritative style, but isn't really dealing with that, and so is lashing out. She needs your boys to hate you because your style of parenting is what her daughter wants, and it's working for you. But she's mired in her style, and on some level, she fears that her wish for you is precisely what's going to happen to her. Bingo. I had a similar experience with my parents. I'm now 33, and I still have a long list of normal experiences I never got to have when I was younger, like having posters on my bedroom wall, throwing a party, or flying a kite. OP, you found a method that works for you and your family. Stick with it. Honestly, it's really short-sighted of your friend to complain that her parenting is going poorly in one breath, then insult yours in the next. She had it coming. My mom named me, teen male, Cassian, after her mom, my grandma, Cassie, who died when Mom was 7 years old. My grandpa remarried after Grandma's death, and my mom and her stepmom never had a good relationship. My step-grandma tried, but she was always insecure and jealous that my mom thought so much of my grandma and never saw her equally. Mom and Dad wanted to name their kids after people they lost, so I was Cassian, after Cassie. My step-grandma always had a visible dislike for my name. I remember being 4 or 5, and she tried calling me Tommy. Thomas, Tom, Tommy are in no way part of my name, so it always seemed weird. I don't remember how long it lasted, but it was long enough that it stood out to me as happening for a while. She cringed whenever someone called me Cassie or Cass for a nickname. I didn't like her doing that, which made me dislike seeing her and Grandpa. She stopped with the Tommy stuff for a while and then tried to get away with calling me Bertie. I told her I didn't like that and she needed to call me Cassian or Cass. She told me she'd like me to have a different nickname, and I said no. I don't want some random name as my nickname. Grandpa asked me to compromise, and I told them they could call me by my name or I'd tell my mom. Mom didn't hear this stuff typically. The most recent time she did this was 2 years ago. I decided to say screw them in my head, and now I haven't spent any time with them since. Mom never really visited, but now she always makes excuses for them not to visit. We only see them now during family functions. Grandpa contacted me a few days ago and asked me if I would come to stay with them some weekends. He said my step-grandma was feeling abandoned because it was apparent none of the grandkids were interested in spending time with her, and he thought it would be nice for me, as the oldest, to set a good example and help them out. I said no. He told me I could do this small thing for them, and I owed them that much. I said I owed them nothing when she constantly disrespected me by calling me by a different name and refusing to listen when I said I didn't want to be renamed with a nickname. He said she's my grandma, and I said no, she's not anyone's mom or grandma, and she's still bitterly jealous that grandma hasn't been forgotten, and that's not our fault. He told me I was being disrespectful, and I could hear his wife in the background. He called to tell my mom, and she backed me up and told him to leave me alone. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your name is Cassian. If she wanted to give you a nickname, she could do what everyone else does and use an actual nickname, sweetheart, honey, lovely, etc., not a new name. How is Bertie or Tommy even close to Cassian? If she resents your name, that's for her and her only to deal with. You can't just rename someone because you don't like it. Your name is yours. She has absolutely no right to change it. Sorry you're going through this. Cassian is a lovely name too, by the way. Some adults have some very strange ideas about what disrespect by kids is. Sadly, your step-grandma is going about things so badly when she likely does want to be a part of her husband's family, but it's entirely on her and her disrespect of your name that you don't want anything to do with her. You're right. You don't owe her anything. The audacity of some people. I would block both of them. I, 32 male, am marrying the love of my life, Yael, 31 female, next spring. We live on the West Coast. However, we're having the wedding in Florida because that is where Yael's grandparents and great-grandmother live. It's crucial for us that they were there because they mostly raised her. I have a larger family, and I'm not close to most of them because they're the worst. One of my cousins, 22, non-binary, is angry about this for obvious reasons. I get that the situation there is crappy. As I didn't invite them, they don't have to go if they don't want to. The cousin decides to try and put me on blast for the wedding location. I posted a rebuttal. I didn't invite my cousin because of something they did 4 years ago, which was making a prank video where they tricked my Jewish girlfriend, Yael, into eating pork. I still have the video saved as evidence of why my side of the family sucks. I don't want someone who pulled a stunt like that anywhere near my Jewish in-laws. So I posted that, and now everyone my cousin knew is turning against them. My cousin called me freaking out because their boss saw it, and now they got let go. I replied that it sucks to suck, and hung up. I think I'm doing it right by protecting the people I call my family, but some of my friends think I went into overkill on the video since it cost someone their livelihood. Not the idiot. Your cousin brought it down on themselves. They didn't need to publicly blast you, and you don't need to protect them from their own misdeeds. The pork prank is deeply offensive. You aren't having the wedding in Florida to spite your cousin because they're non-binary. You aren't inviting them because they purposefully engaged in having your fiancé break one of her religious taboos without her consent. As a Jewish person, this is horrifying to me. I can't imagine feeling so violated and then having everyone see me being so violated. Honestly, I can't believe Yael didn't press charges. Honestly, if she doesn't eat pork, she could have become gravely sick, like hospitalized sick, because her body couldn't process the pork. LOL, LMAO even. As someone in the LGBTQ plus community, I cannot fathom people who belong to this persecuted group harp on about our persecution and then do purposeful harm to other historically oppressed minorities. Actually, I can. It's probably the blatant narcissism. Enjoy your wedding. My husband, 35, and I, female 35, have high-paying jobs and are child-free. My brother, Charles, 37, and his wife, Bailey, 36, are both middle school teachers with 3 kids. 2 months ago, Bailey asked if something was different about me since I looked so refreshed and glowy lately. I excitedly told her I started using an acne medication prescribed by Derm. I joked that it's like the fountain of youth in a tube. I explained it's helped so much with my hyperpigmentation, fine lines, wrinkles, etc. It's made a pretty huge difference, in my opinion, and it's pretty affordable. She was like, "Wow, really? Maybe I'll check it out." I told her she totally should, and I highly recommend going to an appointment. Bailey gave me a ring a few days ago and told me she could get an appointment and prescription after being more frugal with their spending. I told her, yay, let me know how it goes. However, she said she didn't realize it would be so expensive for a tube, $140, and asked if I maybe have a spare bottle. She said she thought it was affordable and wasn't sure what to do. I apologized and said I didn't really have any spares to give her and said she should check out GoodRx for some coupons on the price. I also apologized for saying it's affordable and meant that it was a good price for me and wasn't thinking with my comments. She got quiet for a second and then snapped. Right, we get it. You guys live like freaking millionaires while we're in the trenches. Her outburst took me aback, and I didn't say anything. She said I was being a witch for not trying to help her out, and said it was my fault for misleading her about the price in the first place. She said she saved for weeks to get that appointment. I told her we could continue this conversation later because I wouldn't sit here and be insulted. I hung up. She later texted me an apology, saying she'd just been so overwhelmed with the kids and her body postpartum that she took it out on me. She then added if I could loan her some money, she'd appreciate it, for a medication she really needs. She joked we could use it as a tax write-off like other rich people. I didn't reply to her text. My husband agreed that she's being ridiculous and acting like this is her diabetes medication when it's purely cosmetic. He agreed to not give her a cent for this and ignore her. My brother asked me if I could just do them this favor, since it's pennies for us. They also had spent weeks saving for an appointment with the dermatologist, since they thought the med would be affordable. I told him I had already apologized for saying it's affordable and didn't appreciate being insulted and given backhanded comments by his wife. Am I the idiot? Edit. It's tretinoin for those curious. Not the idiot. It's not pennies. All your hard work has got you to where you are. If she cares that much, she should try to go back to school and become something that pays more. Tough crap. They made choices to be precisely where they are right now. I don't care if you're the richest couple in the world. It's not your responsibility to help with a darn acne cream. I could maybe see if this was a life or death medicine, but come on, acne cream she's tripping about? You suggested a miracle cream and stated it was affordable without realizing it wasn't affordable for them. She got hurt and lashed out. You both apologized. Family is family, and tensions run high at times. If you can afford to make her day and buy her one tube to try it out, then she can budget to get it herself. It doesn't take much to be kind to someone else, especially someone you'll be associating with for years. Do you want LP to pay for her treatment forever? Because one thing is you giving her as a gift for her birthday or Christmas. Another is spending $140 a month, every month. And seriously, 2 working adults can't afford $140? OP, your husband's comment about how this is pennies for you was unnecessary. If you're worried about your brother's finances and want to help, focus on things for the kids, such as clothes, toys, or after-school activities, or even good health insurance. My husband, 32, and I, 29 female, planned a week vacation to New Orleans in the U.S. We, but mostly I, have been planning this for months. Back in March, I told him I would plan most of it, where to go and what to do. All he had to do was make sure he had the week off and buy the plane tickets. I spent the last few months researching what to do. I booked the hotel room, made reservations at places we wanted to try, and made a list of all the sites I wanted to see. Every few weeks, I would check in with my husband to see if he had asked off and bought the tickets yet. He would say he was waiting for the plane ticket prices to drop. 3 weeks ago, I reminded him again, and he said he had gotten off work for the days, but had forgotten to get the tickets. He looked online, and the tickets were close to $1,500 a ticket. He said he would wait some more to see if they would go down. Last week, I asked if he had bought them again, and he said no. We looked again and the prices were still high. He said he wasn't willing to spend that much on them and asked how much money I would lose if I canceled everything instead. He offered to have a nice staycation instead. I told him I was unwilling to cancel everything because I spent so much time planning it. We argued, and we didn't come to a conclusion. I wound up just buying one ticket for myself, and when I flew out on Saturday, I told him I was still going, and he acted all surprised that I didn't want to stay home with him. I'm in New Orleans now, and he's blowing up my phone, saying I'm an idiot for still going without him. He was trying to get a ticket to come too, but I told him he'd get his own hotel room if he came, because this is now my vacation away from him. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I don't know your husband's deal, but he acted like an idiot. I don't know if he deliberately sabotaged the trip or just didn't care enough to follow through on his tiny piece of things. Still, you were absolutely right to not let him ruin the trip for you, and he sure as heck shouldn't be booking an expensive plane ticket to join you now. I hope he'll be ready with a massive apology when you get home. This reeks of intentional sabotage. It also looks like they have some separate finances, so he was willing to throw OP's money at the wind so he could save the plane tickets money. In my honest opinion, he didn't want to go to begin with, and instead of communicating, he came up with this insane plan. Good for OP for going no matter what. I wonder if this is a common occurrence in their marriage. I agree. OP, shut your phone off. And if there are people you must have contact you, get a burner phone and share the number with those couple of people. He doesn't get to ruin this after basically destroying it. Although I am curious why you didn't buy the tickets. No blame. I get the principle of it. And ultimately, this is his, not yours. Go have fun, sis. Dude, she can block him temporarily or use Do Not Disturb and then make a whitelist that can go through. No need to run out and buy another phone. The one thing OP should not do, as I'm sure her dear husband will demand she does, is apologize for going on the vacation she planned, at the date she planned, by herself, as hubby didn't bother to follow through on buying plane tickets. OP, that was weaponized incompetence, trying to manipulate you into canceling the vacation because he didn't want to go. Good on you for going anyway and not playing his passive-aggressive BS game. My wife, 26, and I, 27 female, moved to a new house. We thought we'd throw a dinner party and invite both sides of our families. We used to live in a different state for 5 years, and now's our opportunity to catch up with our loved ones. My brother-in-law has 2 kids, Daniel, male kindergartner, and Rosie, female toddler. These kids were absolutely horrible during the entire dinner, and their parents didn't say a single word, or even try to control them, just to name a few examples. They moved pillows from sofas and chairs, spilled drinks and food on different surfaces, threw an orange on my Persian carpet, sat on it, made it explode, and spread the orange on the carpet with their hands, broke 2 glasses, and overall ran around shouting and screaming. I was the youngest in the family, and I didn't see kids much my entire life, but this horrified me, and I was so angry at my brother-in-law and his wife for just watching their kids do these things and not saying anything. I told my wife to talk to her brother. She was as angry as I was. However, she said she already talked to him, but he said they were just kids, and that's how kids grow up. He also said he wanted them to have a strong sense of self-confidence. While we were all saying goodbye, brother-in-law told his kids, "Now that your aunties live by, we'll come to visit often." I said, "No, I don't think that's going to happen very soon." Brother-in-law was confused and asked why. I said, "Because we actually love the peace and comfort in our home, and these guys are a cute tsunami." This made both brother-in-law and his wife angry. He called me an entitled brat and told my wife she was a horrible host. My friends think I was too rough, so I wanted to ask, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. These guys are a cute tsunami? That is hands down the nicest way of saying, your kids are a handful, and I don't want them in my house, that I've ever heard. I'm stealing that. You do not have to put up with children who have not been taught any manners or discipline. That's incredibly disrespectful to you and your wife. Not to mention teaching kids to be inconsiderate. I would tell them that they were invited when they were taught manners. My parents would be horrified if I were to go to someone's house and destroy their property. Send them the cleaning bill. Let them know the next time they come back, a new bill may be given. I would be mortified if my kids did this at my siblings' place. Calling you a brat is rich, coming from your brother-in-law. You don't need to destroy things to gain a strong sense of self-confidence. What a load of BS. Strong sense of self-confidence equals entitlement. Children need boundaries and positive support. Letting them run wild is not good for their academic life or career. Your brother-in-law and wife are absolutely doing zero parenting. Honestly, I would have sent them a bill for a new Persian carpet too. She's my fiance right now, but our argument is that once we're married, she wants her name on the house deed. Years ago, I bought several acres as soon as I could afford it. Back then, it was part of a ranch surrounded by other ranches. The owner needed the money, so he parceled out this section and sold it to me. I built a small house on it and have lived in it ever since. Since it was initially part of a ranch, I did enough to legally keep it classified as a ranch, so the property tax is extremely low. Over the years, companies moved to the neighboring big city and land prices increased. Almost all the ranchers sold their lands to developers, so now huge houses surround mine. They start from $500,000 and go to several million. None of them sit on even an acre of land. My house is clearly the worst around, and I have no doubt it's bringing the value of nearby houses down. That all happened before I met and dated my fiance. Now that we're engaged, we're talking seriously about our finances, and the only sticking point is the house. She wants her name on the deed once we're married because we'll share our lives. Alternatively, she wants me to sell the house and we purchase a home together. I don't find either option attractive. In our state, we take out whatever we bring to the marriage. Since I'll be bringing the house into the marriage, I can leave with it should things not work out. If I put her name on it, then she'll get half. If I sell the house, there's no way I'll be able to afford anything even close to what I have now. Not to mention, our property tax will be several times higher. Then there's the drive time. My house is 30 minutes away from my work and 40 from hers. House prices have increased so much that we'll have to move at least an hour away from our jobs. Like I said, we agreed with or compromised on everything else. This issue is the only sticking point, and it's becoming big. So much so that she brought her family into it. This weekend, her father took me to dinner for a man-to-man talk. He told me that if we join our lives, we must join everything. He expects me to do the right thing if I want to join their family. So now it's her entire family on one side and me by myself on the other. Am I wrong to want to keep the house I built to myself? Edit. I'm comfortable with us living in my house and paying all the taxes and maintenance myself. Also, if I sell the land, I don't want to buy any new house outright with that money. We went to see a real estate agent because if we buy a house together, I want it to be something we can both afford. Mortgage, down payment, taxes divided equally. I would put any money I make off the sale into my retirement account. That's why I've yet to sell my land, despite many developers begging me to. Yes, some actually begged. I view it as my retirement investment. Not the idiot. The biggest red flag is how she deals with this. Instead of working it out with you, she goes to her mommy and daddy and sends flying monkeys to deal with it. This is how every issue is going to be dealt with. Every disagreement is going to be your whole family against you, every time. I don't think any of them have either your best interest or your well-being at heart. I have no doubt that if the roles were reversed, you'd be having dinner with her father, explaining how you need to do the right thing and not expect half. I'm not saying break up with her. I'm just pointing out serious red flags. The fact is, if she isn't planning on breaking up, she wouldn't need to demand half. She's planning for her post-divorce life. You should do the same. She's already planned her exit before even saying I do. Perhaps Daddy could provide his princess the money to buy into the house. If it's that important to him, he should have skin in the game too, right? OP should suggest putting off the wedding until this can be resolved. Her response will give OP an idea of her true motivations. If she cares more about being married than getting a share, she just made a foolish mistake in handling this. If not, OP is saving himself from making a huge mistake by not marrying her. Also, another man-to-man chat with Dad is required to tell him that you're marrying his daughter someday, not his family, and you'll make a decision as a couple. His input is not needed. He'll respect OP for being upfront, or he'll double down, and OP will know at least Dad is only in it for what his daughter can get. I, female 44, live with my husband 47. We have 2 adult children who don't live with us anymore. 5 years ago, my mother-in-law, 83, got weaker and older and moved in with us too. 2 years ago, mother-in-law was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. She's under medical care, of course, but the condition is progressing quickly despite it. Nowadays, mother-in-law cannot stay home alone as she's dangerous for herself and her surroundings. She almost burned down the house twice, and there were other accidents. Fortunately, as for now, she didn't hurt herself seriously, but at this rate, the question is when it'll happen, not if. Taking care of her is primarily my responsibility, as my husband has a very irregular schedule, and because of his work, he often has to be on call and/or leave home at short notice. As for me, I usually work 8 to 10-hour days, mostly from home, but sometimes I have to be in the office. After I finish work, I take care of the house and mother-in-law. My husband helps me as much as possible, but he often can't be there for me. I'll be honest, I never was a caretaker type. I don't have enough patience. I don't like when other people depend on me, and I'm nervous when I suddenly have to adjust my plans. I cared about my children, obviously, and I like to believe I was a decent mother. But honestly, I have much better contact with them, and as bad as it sounds, loved them more since they grew up and got more independent. The more my mother-in-law needs my help, the more I grow impatient, exhausted, and burned out. I do my best not to show it, but the situation really wears on me. And I know that with time, she'll need even more attention and patience. Admittedly, given that I cannot always work from home and mother-in-law can't be alone, I have constant problems at work, which upsets me as I cherish my work and career. Given everything, I want to put my mother-in-law into a nursing home. Obviously, before I do so, I'll research and choose one with a good reputation and qualified staff. My husband has mixed feelings about it, which is understandable as she is his mother. Still, he says that given that I'm primarily taking care of her, the final decision is mine. The problem is that my husband's siblings are having a fit, calling me and my husband but mostly me, cruel and undependable. They say I should hire a nurse or something. I don't want to let a stranger into my house, and I don't want to be a caretaker at all. In this configuration, I'd still have to take care of mother-in-law after work. We, my husband and I, offered them that we'll pay them to either take her to live with one of them or to take care of her at our place, but they weren't interested, citing that it's too much responsibility as they have their own lives. But that's precisely why I considered the nursing home in the first place. Am I the idiot? It's too much responsibility and they have their own lives? Well, that's rich coming from them. I'm just astounded how some people can't see their hypocrisy, even when it's staring them in the face. Not the idiot, obviously. Spot on. The siblings don't want the responsibility of looking after mother-in-law, nor do they want to contribute to the expense of her being cared for somewhere. What a selfish lot they are. OP is entitled to a life, a social life, a holiday, and of course OP could also fall ill at some point and not be able to care for mother-in-law. No, it's time for mother-in-law to be somewhere she's looked after and gets the care she needs as her condition worsens. Reframe the question, am I the idiot for finding a care solution that meets my mother-in-law's needs and my family's needs? People often respond to the phrase, put in a nursing home, because it sounds like you're kenneling a dog. Alzheimer's is a complex disease that needs increasing levels of care as it progresses. Ruining your own physical and mental health to care for someone is not a normal thing to do. You need to care for yourself first. Otherwise, there could be a major incident while you are on care duty due to your own exhaustion. It was my husband's birthday yesterday, so I planned a birthday party with both of our families, which he basically missed because this meeting was overran by a lot. Our son is a toddler, and I have him in a routine, so I made sure he ate at his regular time. I didn't want to give him a load of sugar right before bed because I knew he wouldn't sleep, so I let him have some of the cake once he had finished his dinner. It's not a big deal because my son is the one who wanted to buy the cake as a present for his dad. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have gotten one, as my husband isn't a big fan of cake. My sister-in-law, my husband's brother's wife, is the one who turned this into an issue because she told me it was rude for us to cut the cake without the birthday boy. I should make my son wait since my husband would be home soon. I know my husband, and it could mean anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours, and I wasn't going to wait that long, so I gave my son the cake. Multiple people told me I shouldn't have done it after my sister-in-law spoke up, and I'll be honest, they were getting under my skin, since why should my son miss out on the cake because his dad is late? My husband came home over an hour later, and when he saw the cake, he jokingly told our son off for stealing his cake, but he wasn't serious. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. The birthday cake was for your husband, not your son. If the timing wasn't going to work out, you could have just told your son he could have some of the cake tomorrow and given him another snack. If I were your husband, I would have been hurt. I suspect you did that because you were miffed your husband's meeting ran long and he missed the birthday dinner you planned for him. I get that. If he does that kind of thing often, you need to voice your frustration and let him know he's responsible for respecting your time and effort too. I read all this and thought, was the cake only edible for one day? All OP had to do was let son have the cake tomorrow. OP was clearly angry about her plans not being followed to a T on her husband's B-Day, so she came up with a reason to screw with him. He saw the cake. He jokingly told our son off for stealing his cake, but he wasn't being serious. Of course not. He knows you are the idiot and not your son. And this was a toddler's gift to his dad. What if he gives another kid a toy? Does he also get to play with it first? You have a lot to work on. I, female 32, just completed my treatment for a medical issue that affected my body. I had gained weight due to this medical condition and also medication, and none of my old clothes fit anymore. So I bought new fitting clothes, But for my husband's birthday party, he asked me to wear one of my old dresses, one of his favorites. To appease him, I said yes, although I didn't feel comfortable wearing it, especially after the weight gain. When I arrived with my sister, he was at the restaurant with his family and friends. As soon as he saw me walking in, he busted out laughing. He pointed at the dress and was hysterical, saying, "Oh my God." I felt so incredibly mad, especially when the others started laughing as well, and one of his friends began whistling in a mocking tone. I turned around instantly and walked out, and my sister followed me. I went home and cried a little, but he kept calling nonstop. He came home and started talking about how oversensitive I was, and that it was just a natural reaction he had upon seeing me in this dress again after all this time. He said I overreacted and made a scene over nothing. He also said I ruined his birthday and urged me to get therapy for the oversensitivity I'm inflicting upon him. Am I the idiot? Did I overreact? He's so upset he refuses even to receive the gift. Edit. He first started giggling and tried to cover his mouth. Then in a matter of seconds, he busted out laughing in the middle of the restaurant. The guests were confused then. They must have understood why he was laughing, because they joined in, and his friend whistled at me mockingly while repeatedly turning his head like something caught his attention. Could it be that I overreacted? It could be just me getting overwhelmed because joking and laughing are not new to him. He's the kind to tease about anything, even with family, the kids also. He also said he was caught off guard, so I shouldn't blame him for his reaction. Not the idiot. You need therapy, that's right, but not for your oversensitivity, but for your own sake and self-esteem and emotional trauma your husband is subjecting you to. His reaction was completely unjustified. This was bound to happen. He guilted you into wearing something you weren't comfortable in, and he knew it didn't fit. He publicly humiliated you. He's blaming you and gaslighting you. He hasn't apologized. Get a divorce pronto. The easiest way to drop dead weight. Agreed. I hope he doesn't overreact when you serve this idiot with divorce papers. Have your sister present when he's served so she can point and laugh. It upset you so much that you left and cried, and he still doesn't think he did anything wrong? What? Is it possible he asked you to wear the dress specifically to laugh at you? I also can't help but wonder if this was planned. Maybe he knew she would be embarrassed like this in the dress that he picked out, and he did it on purpose to shame her into losing weight faster, post her medical treatment. "You're just being too sensitive" is a common defense bullies use when they're called out on their behavior. Yep, that's exactly what he did. My jaw dropped. I legitimately cannot imagine my husband even thinking of doing that. What is the point of being married to someone who thinks publicly humiliating you is a cool and normal thing to do? This whole incident feels like a tip of the iceberg thing. He'd have to be so selfish, cruel, and childish to do this, and then to attack you for it? Are there any upsides to being with this guy? It's a good thing his birthday got ruined. People who laugh at their partners instead of with their partners deserve to get their birthdays ruined. He's throwing a hissy fit because he knows he's in the wrong. People can be teasing, but from the moment that hurts someone, they should cut it out and apologize. Take the gift back and buy a nice dress that fits your current body and makes you feel beautiful and confident. Everyone deserves to feel like that. My 46 male, ex-wife 44, and I divorced when my daughter was 3. My ex later remarried and moved to a different state. I had visitation, and I tried my best to stay in my daughter's life, but eventually, she just didn't want to spend time with me. She had a good life with her mom and stepdad. I paid child support and sent gifts at Christmas and on birthdays. If she needed money for anything, I would give it. I met my current wife, 28, about 5 years ago. We were friends for a few years before she told me how she felt. We had known each other so long, our engagement was very short. We were engaged, married, and expecting our son in 1 year. My daughter's now 25 and engaged. My parents asked me about my plans for the wedding, and I didn't have any answers because I didn't know about it. I called my ex to find out what was up. She said her husband was paying for everything and would walk my daughter down the aisle. I was hurt. but I understood that my adult daughter had made a choice in her life, so I thanked her mom for making sure my parents got an invitation. Then I went back to my life. I have a newborn that needs my attention. Well, I've been hearing from her family now. Apparently, I'm the idiot who doesn't even care that I'm not invited to my daughter's wedding. That's not entirely true. I chose not to make a big deal about it because I didn't want to cause drama over a wedding. But now my ex-in-laws are all on me about not attending, and now my daughter's on social media saying I abandoned her and I'm not even trying to come because I only care about my replacement family. Am I the idiot? Edit. My daughter, her mom, and her stepdad came to my wedding. When I say I made an effort, I mean I paid for her phone so we could talk. When she got herself a new phone, she changed her number and didn't bother giving me the new number. Not the idiot. Not inviting someone to your wedding as attention-seeking behavior is a great way to end a relationship ultimately, and it sounds like it was pretty dead already. I guess she probably wanted you to put up a fight, demand that you be invited, and scream and cry to the universe that it wasn't fair you were separated from your daughter. She just doesn't understand that you've already been through that when you were first cut out of her life by your own choice. You instead did the adult thing and chose to respect her decision at face value. She played a child's game with an adult who didn't get to spend time with his child. No wonder you didn't play the way she wanted. You know, OP, this is interesting because on the surface you aren't at fault here, but this is so much more loaded than a wedding invite. This is your child, and she's felt like you've given up on her for a long time. I think she's waiting for you to fight for her love and demand her attention. The fact that you're so matter-of-fact and indifferent towards your relationship must break her heart. Listen to what she's saying. She feels abandoned by you. You also didn't stop considering that you married someone who's virtually her age and are starting a new family. That's tough for any child, but to think that she'll likely have a child of her own and a sibling so close in age as well, unsettling. Everyone's the idiot here. The point here is that you aren't even close enough to your daughter to know she's getting married. She's also the idiot for turning her wedding invites into a test of your attention, but she quickly found out that you don't pay attention to her. I think a lot is missing here. I'm leaning toward you are the idiot, OP. You have a daughter and don't consider her to be a part of your life. You imply this is all her doing, but she was a child when you and your ex divorced. As an adult and a parent, you had a responsibility here. My fiance, 29 female, and me, 34 male, are getting married in 2 weeks after 13 years of friendship and 4 years of dating. She's fantastic, and our relationship has been good so far for both of us. Planning the wedding has been uncomplicated and fun. We included my mother a lot. For example, my fiance took her dress shopping. The reason is that my fiance has always had a good relationship with my parents, and it grew much closer over the past year after her mother died. They kind of see her as another child, and I know that fiance appreciates that immensely. As for my fiance's father, she went no contact when she was 15. Even before, he hadn't played an important role in her life. His behavior was one cause of her depression and low self-esteem. It took her years to heal. She's happy with the way things are now. I've never met the man, so neither of us considered inviting him to the wedding. My mother, however, won't understand why we won't invite him. Mom is a retired psychologist. She's had some experience with children-parent reunification, and she thinks my fiance needs this even more after my fiance's mom's death. Fiance and I both have shut my mom down plenty of times. We made it clear that this man would not know anything about my fiance's life, nor would he be welcome anywhere near the wedding. So for a while, my mom shut up. My mom doesn't know my fiance's father. The other night we had dinner with my family. My mom had an announcement. She looked my fiance's father up and went to see him. Then she invited him to our wedding. She seemed so pleased. My family was appalled and angry. They all knew what had happened. My fiance somehow remained calm and told my mom how inappropriate that was, how my mom hurt my fiance terribly by stepping over the one boundary she ever had, and how fiance had lost all her trust in mom after this. I then uninvited my mom and we left. Fiancé only broke down at home. My mother's also been inconsolable since and called me dozens of times, but I haven't picked up yet. Fiancé feels unsafe about having the wedding if there's a chance that her father might show up. We might just cancel the whole thing. My father, who's not condoning my mother's actions, thinks I should just talk to mom and hear her out. My siblings agree that uninviting her was too drastic. I just see the distress my mother had caused my fiancé and get angry all over again. So am I the idiot for sticking to this decision? Not the idiot. She may be a retired psychologist, but she showed the emotional intelligence of soggy bread. Cancel the wedding and go and elope instead. That kind of betrayal would be enough for me to consider going no contact with my mom. It wasn't just a small mistake or an oversight. It was a deliberate action to trample boundaries and to push an agenda that you made very clear you and your fiancé had no desire to pursue. As a retired psychologist, your mother should have known better than anyone just how damaging her actions would be to your fiancé and any existing relationship between her and yourself. I agree that you should elope. You can tell your mother that she turned the idea of the whole wedding into a nightmare situation for both of you, and that you guys are just going to get married and repair the damage and your sense of safety now. Tell her you'll be open to her apologies, perhaps in a few months or years, but that she needs to sit tight. What do people expect from stunts like this? And even if your mom is a psychologist, is she your fiancé's psychologist? What kind of psychologist would do this to a patient? I'd stick to the uninvitation if she thinks she can wreak havoc knowingly, and tell her that she can be glad to be uninvited from your wedding and not your whole life. Horrible behavior right there. Update. Thank you all for your advice and perspective. I met my dad earlier. He's sorry for what my mom did and how he'd first pushed me to listen to her. I told him that my fiancé was the person hurt in this, that it was really up to her. Dad did offer to cover any additional costs we might have now. Both siblings called individually to apologize to my fiancé as well. I don't know what to make of it just now, but it's a good start, I think. I haven't talked to mom though. Also, my fiancé's brother-in-law had a good idea regarding the wedding. We might do it earlier. That way, we'd at least keep the venue. We're still figuring details out, but it might work. I, 27 female, have a very young stepdaughter, Becca, with my husband, Kevin, 30. He has a 50-50 parenting plan with his ex, Wendy, 32 female. I've been in Becca's life since she was a baby, and no, I was not an affair partner. They mutually chose to split up long before I met him. His ex is super high conflict, tries to keep me from spending any bonding time with Becca, and just is constantly harassing my husband and me and his family members. That's in the process of being handled in court. Basically, she's nice when she needs something, and we try to all work together for Wendy, and she's insane when we disagree on something, or just randomly when she feels like being crazy. You really never know when she's gonna lose it. Well, Wendy got her car repoed, and she's been out of a car for a while, taking lifts when she can and getting rides from people. Well, her week came up, and she had no one available to give her a ride to pick up Becca from school, so she called me. I'm currently pregnant, and the last thing I want to do is interact with her. She just recently emailed my mother, asking her to talk to me and tell me to stay out of parenting business so she can raise her daughter properly. Insane. She didn't even know my mom, so she searched the internet for her info. She asked if I'd be willing to drop Becca off to her, and I said no. She tried being nice and begging, but I said no. My husband was working, so he couldn't do it. I picked up Becca and brought her to our house, and Wendy wasn't able to pick her up until 3 days later. My husband said that's her problem, and if she doesn't have the means to even pick her up from school, she has no right to treat me and him the way she has and expects me to help her. On the other hand, my friend is a single mom, and she told me that's not how you co-parent, and I or my husband should have put aside our differences to let Becca see her mom. Becca didn't care and was happy to stay with us. She could also call and speak with her mom whenever she wanted, which she didn't, and her mom never called to speak to her. I don't know. I'm not a bio mom yet, I will be soon, so maybe I'm missing the mark. Wendy's obviously angry and is accusing us of alienation. The paragraphs and calls are nonstop. Co-parenting is tough. Am I the idiot? Heck, if she could track down your mom, I'm surprised she didn't just ask your mother to pick her up or drop your daughter off. Instead, she just complains about you. You're right, it is insane. You are not the idiot. I'm not a parent or even a step-parent, but I can see this. The most important fact for me boils down to this. If she couldn't even drive to pick her up or get someone else to do it for her, what would she do if this was an emergency and Becca needed to go to the hospital? Sometimes ambulances take too long. Sometimes parents can lose full custody because they have no transportation method to see to a child's needs. You are the idiot. I think it's extremely short-sighted of you. You're currently in court to modify the custody agreement. If you have a 50-50 arrangement and you're not facilitating visitation, that could look really bad in court. Wendy could easily argue that you're preventing her from seeing her daughter. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I think this could look bad in court. I'd encourage you to keep your eye on the long-term goal. No. People can't expect to be rude and have benefits. You can't have it both ways. Stay out of parenting and do parent things for me. OP, you've been told to stay out of parenting. Picking up and dropping off is a parenting decision, unless the parents designate a proxy. Your husband has said no, and as the custodial parent in your home, his word is the final one. You've done nothing wrong. Stay as far away from the impending explosion as you can. You're pregnant and don't need the stress. In my husband's family, there's a necklace passed down to the eldest son's wife after she has their first child. My husband is his father's only biological son, but he has an elder stepbrother his father adopted. In the last few years, there's been tension between my husband and his stepbrother because his grandfather has pulled rank to ensure my husband gets his birthright. It's made things awkward for me as a stepbrother's married to my best friend. My best friend gave birth to their first child 7 months ago, and there's been nonstop drama over this necklace, as technically it should have gone to her, and it was supposed to until everybody found out I was pregnant too. The drama had hurt my relationship with my best friend, which is partly why I rejected the necklace when my father-in-law tried to give it to me. I knew my husband wanted me to accept it, and he's upset that I won't. It's causing even more drama with my in-laws because everybody's still fighting over this necklace. My husband told me it would have been over if I had just accepted it, but now I'd hurt him and his family by rejecting it. Am I the idiot? This seems like an impossible situation where someone sees you as an idiot no matter your choice. It's pretty clear that this would not be over even if you had accepted it. Making the two of you scapegoats for their infighting isn't fair at all. Not the idiot, OP, but they're the idiots for dragging you into this. You are the idiot. First, for picking your bestie over your husband. You're married, therefore a team, a united front. I'm guessing your father-in-law had your husband as his son first, as you stated your brother-in-law was adopted. Family heirlooms are supposed to pass on to bloodlines, not random people who are added to the family in other means. This means the husband's entitled to have the necklace. Sorry. The question is, who do you love the most? Your husband, with whom you took vows, or your best friend? Are you willing to lose a marriage over something you can't control? Both OP and besties should reject the necklace. Take back control of the situation by telling those men no piece of jewelry is worth the value they place on their friendship. And someone seriously needs to ask father-in-law why he even bothered adopting the stepbrother if he wasn't going to treat him like his actual son. Honestly, it's silly for there to be so much tension over an old trinket.